In this video, we are going to pit house against house. We've got 7 whiskeys representing the 7 houses of Westeros, and we have a whiskey representing the Night's Watch. In this video, we're going to rate them all out of 10 and decide who comes out on top, finally deciding who gets to sit in the Iron Throne. The Game of Thrones whiskeys came out in the US back in November, and they're available worldwide in February. And trust me, it has taken the cunning of a Lannister to get our hands on some samples. You know who you are. Thank you very much. If this is your first time watching Top Whiskies, you should click the subscribe button. We do whiskey videos every week where we try to make whiskey fun and accessible. And we give away a free bottle of whiskey every month. So make sure you ding the bell so you don't miss out. I'm really excited about these whiskeys. This to me doesn't feel like it's just a novelty. You kind of think a Game of Thrones tie-in whiskey is going to be a bit of a joke, but we're talking about 8 whiskeys, all single malts from the Diageo portfolio. You know what distillery they came from, you know in some cases how old they are, and that gives a lot more credibility to me as a whiskey drinker. And you know that you're not just drinking some knockoff blend. In fact, 6 of these whiskeys are entirely new liquids to the market from established distilleries, and I think that's pretty cool. The other 2 whiskeys, Royal Lochnagar 12 and Cardhu Gold, are new to the US market. And again, I think that's really cool. I'm so excited to try these, so let's just give it a go. Our first whiskey comes from House Greyjoy, but more importantly, it's Talisker Select Reserve. Let's see how this goes. I'm not a massive Talisker fan. Sometimes I really like them, sometimes I don't. I kind of go back and forth. So let's see. On the nose, you get that typical bonfire sort of smokiness that you expect from a Talisker. On the palate, it's really nice actually. It's very sort of chocolatey. It's got a nice mouthfeel. Bit zingy on the finish. It's obviously a really youthful Talisker. Not necessarily a bad thing. If you're a person that likes kind of a zingy, youthful, young, smoky, spicy whiskey, this is the kind of thing you'd really enjoy. House Greyjoy, 8.5 out of 10. Our next whiskey is Singleton of Glendullan Select, representing House Tully. So this comes from Speyside. I'm going to expect something that's a bit sweet, maybe slightly spicy. I'm going to be a bit tough on this one probably because Speyside whiskeys tend to be my favorite. On the nose, this is exactly what I expect from a Speyside whiskey. It's that fresh fruit, green apples, really nice nose. On the palate, it's orchard fruits. It's nice, maybe, dare I say, a bit boring. It's not bad, it's just somewhat lackluster. It's good if you're someone that maybe doesn't want a whiskey that's super sweet but kind of edging towards the sweet side. This is a good whiskey to try, but for me, maybe not so much. House Tully, 7.5. Our next whiskey is Royal Lochnagar 12, representing House Baratheon. This is a really interesting one because this is one of only 2 whiskeys that's available outside of the Game of Thrones range. So you could go and pick up a Royal Lochnagar 12 most places. They've got it at lots of duty frees. They come in really cool glasses. So if you don't want to shell out Game of Thrones money, you could try the House Baratheon whiskey for a bit cheaper. It's a Highland whiskey, so it tends to be quite floral. I haven't had a lot of Royal Lochnagar, so I'm excited to try this, not just because Game of Thrones, but just legitimately, I'm really excited to try this. On the nose, it's zesty, sort of lemony, which is nice. On the palate, that lemon flavor, that zest sort of carries itself through, but I don't think it's quite as alluring as the original nose was. It's very delicate, and this is probably going to call me out as a massive Game of Thrones dork, and I'm not sure if this is a fair way to grade it, but this is a really nice whiskey, but it's maybe not the whiskey I'd pick for the Baratheons, because Baratheons are, hardcore. If you like light, floral, delicate whiskeys, this Royal Lochnagar is one that you'd really enjoy, but I'm not convinced that this belongs to House Baratheon. 7 out of 10. Our next whiskey is Oban Bay Reserve, representing the Night's Watch. This is the only one of the range that comes in a black bottle because, crows, Night's Watch, obviously. This is another Highlands whiskey, so be interesting to compare this one to the Royal Lochnagar that we just tried. Whoa. Yeah, on the nose, it's really different. I don't even know where to place that. Maybe goat's cheese? On the palate, this one has a really nice mouthfeel. It's quite waxy, heavy, sort of dark fruit flavors. This Oban is much more up my street. This is genuinely a really nice whiskey. And again, even if this wasn't a Game of Thrones, I could see definitely drinking a bottle of this one. Yeah. This definitely is going to put the Night's Watch in the lead. I'm going to say Night's Watch, 8.5. Our next whiskey is a Lagavulin 9. This is representing House Lannister and comes from Islay, which means it's going to be probably quite smoky and peaty, which is a flavor that is a bit Marmite to lots of people, including me. Sometimes I really like a peaty whiskey. Sometimes I find it a bit overpowering. So let's see how this goes. Okay. Definitely an Islay whiskey. Really strong peat on the nose. It's a really good flavor. It has an interesting profile. It evolves on the palate. It's giving you lots of dimensions to that smoke. It's got a lovely dry finish. This is a really good whiskey. Okay, well, this is definitely going to put House Lannister into the lead. House Lannister always pays its debts. 9 out of 10. Our next whiskey is Dalwhinnie Winter's Frost. This is representing House Stark. So, is winter coming? It's interesting that they pick a Dalwhinnie. So Dalwhinnie is Speyside whiskey. So we're going back to those sort of fruity flavors. If it were me, I probably would have picked maybe another kind of Highlands malt. I wouldn't usually think Stark Speyside would go together, but maybe that's just me being a massive Game of Thrones nerd and a whiskey dork. But to each his own. Let's see how it goes. On the nose, nice. It kind of smells like cornflakes. And on the palate, it's okay, but it's not terribly interesting. This is a decent whiskey to represent House Stark. It doesn't have a lot of vitality to it. It's enjoyable. It's definitely not a bad whiskey. It's just, I don't know, a bit lackluster to me. And again, that's obviously just my opinion, but I'm not blown away by it. House Stark, 7 out of 10. Our next whiskey is Clynelish Reserve for House Tyrell. This is a Highland whiskey, so I'm going to expect it to be rich, bold, the kind of whiskey I probably would have thought for House Stark had they not picked something so boring. Like furniture polish? It definitely smells like alcohol. It has a really nice mouthfeel, quite a viscous, really rich flavor to it, like honey and beeswax. This is really nice. It is bold. This is a really enjoyable whiskey. Yeah, House Tyrell, 8.5 out of 10. Bold, like a Tyrell woman. And our last whiskey takes us back to Speyside. Cardhu Gold to represent House Targaryen. So let's see how this one goes down. On the nose, it is your typical Cardhu Gold. And I've had Cardhu Gold before. Like I said, there are 2 whiskeys in this range that are available in Europe. Cardhu Gold is one of them. This is a really decent, nice whiskey. If you haven't been able to get it in the US, you could buy a Cardhu Gold Reserve through this brand, obviously getting Game of Thrones, or if you happen to go through a duty-free, you could pick one up and it'd probably be cheaper. It's very nice on the nose. It's delicate, well-balanced, but it doesn't give me very much. This is not Daenerys Targaryen. And again, maybe not fair to judge whiskeys based on the characters they're meant to represent, but I'm going to anyway because it's my video. So, House Targaryen, 6.5 out of 10. There you go, my hands down favorite from the Game of Thrones Diageo whiskies is Lagavulin 9 House Lannister. Without a doubt, that is the best whiskey of the lot. Not only does this whiskey represent what the Lannisters as characters are meant to represent, but it's just genuinely a delicious whiskey. If you've tried the Game of Thrones whiskey, leave a comment down below. Let us know what your favorite Game of Thrones whiskey was, and just because, again, I'm a bit of a dork, can you do a vote right here to tell me what your favorite family from Game of Thrones is? Because I just want to know. And I hope you enjoyed this video. We do new whiskey videos every week, so make sure you subscribe. And if that's not enough, we give away a free bottle of whiskey every month. So ding the bell to make sure you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and I really hope you enjoy the final series of Game of Thrones. I definitely know that I will.